Lemuru is a deeply rooted flowering perennial shrub belonging to the pokeweed family. And by deeply rooted, I mean that physically and metaphorically. This plant has some seriously deep roots. It has dark green leathery leaves that aim close to the ground and tall spikes lined with small white flowers that emerge from the leaves. And the flowers seem to be floating above the leaves. Lemuru is native to sub-Saharan Africa, Central America, South America, the entire Caribbean, and the southern United States. And I'm sure it exists in many other places that just have not been documented in the information that's out in the world. So hopefully this video will bring some attention to this plant and we'll get some reports of where else it's also growing. Lemuru's botanical name is Petiveria Alliacea. But every indigenous tradition that utilizes lemuru has its own personal pet name for it. And they're not changing it. Around the world, it's also known as Anamu, Apasin, Apasote de Soro, Caluchin, Chasea vermine, Congo root, Duvant duvant, Emerualuma, garlic weed, guinea hen weed, guinea hen leaf, Makura, Okano, Peiche. The leaves, roots, and flowers of the lemuru emit a strongly pungent garlic smell. And that's why it's called garlic weed, because of that smell. Lemuru's first documented use in America coincided with the start of slavery, with the influx of slaves from Africa. So it clearly came from Africa. Many indigenous traditions endow lemuru with magical healing properties. It's used in many rituals by shamans, healers, spirit workers, animal whisperers, mediums, and the like. It's used in the Garifuna Agoni, the Garifuna spiritual cleansing baths, the healing baths. And these are the baths that are taken before an ancestral ceremony. It's for purifying the body, for warding off negativity, for getting rid of heavy negative spirits, so that when we go into the ceremony, we are fresh and light and clean. It's used by the Taino for the spiritual plant bath, for despojos, and what you've heard referred to as limpiezas espirituales. The lemuru is an integral part of these ritual ceremonial cleansing baths. It's used in potions and in baths and in formulas to protect from curses, spells, and witchcraft. At least that is the belief. Lemuru contains many scientifically proven active compounds that actually do protect the body against negative spirits, like viruses, bacteria, fungal infections, autoimmune diseases, and even cancer. And that's what today's video on lemuru is all about. We're going to talk about the different and many benefits of this plant, what it has to offer to humanity on a physical level, on a spiritual level, on a metaphysical level, for humans, for plants, for the land, for animals, for the air, and for the energy. Lemuru has been subject to an incredible amount of scientific scrutiny, and it's been found to have all of these following actions and properties. It's an analgesic, which simply means that it's a pain reliever. It contains COX-1 inhibitors, which are active ingredients in arthritis drugs, the same as aspirin, ibuprofen, and naproxen. Lemuru is anti-inflammatory, and that's the way indigenous people have been using it for many years. At least it's one of the ways. It alleviates swelling, especially in arthritis. It's anti-leukemic, which means it actively kills leukemia cells and prevents the formation of tumors. It's antifungal and antibacterial. Lemuru contains 4 thiosulfonates, and they are compounds that have antimicrobial activity against bacteria and fungus. Lemuru is also anti-cancerous. There's a study that named Lemuru as one of the 34 plants identified as able to treat and prevent cancer. It contains dibenzyl trisulfide. It's a very unique sulfuric compound that's also chemotherapeutic with anti-cancerous actions. And they're intelligent too because they kill cancer cells but completely bypass the healthy cells. So it's very much unlike chemotherapy. It's anti-candidal, so it contains sulfuric compounds, the same ones that are effective against yeast and candida. It's also anti-protozoal. It's employed in various formulas, various traditional formulas for its antimicrobial actions, as well as in other formulas, even modern day herbalist formulas that support or are in support of the immune system. It's anti-tumors because it contains astilbin, benzaldehyde, and coumarin. And all 3 of those compounds have been documented with anti-tumorous, anti-cancerous, and antimicrobial actions. It's antiviral. It contains sulfuric compounds effective against flus and viruses. It's also hypoglycemic. Lemuru has been shown to have hypoglycemic effects. People with hypoglycemia and diabetes should not use this plant unless they are under the professional care of a healthcare practitioner, because you need to monitor the blood sugar levels. In one animal study, blood sugar levels under Lemuru dropped more than 60% in 1 hour. So it's a serious hypoglycemic action that this plant has. It's also an immunomodulator, which means it's an immune system stimulant. It acts on the immune system by increasing natural killer cells by 100%. It increases interleukin and interferon, which means that the body can now signal the immune system when a virus is present. It protects against future infection and disease. So the Lemuru actually builds you an internal army of natural killer cells that are just standing by, ready to protect you. Now, is that not true protection in the same way that the indigenous cultures have used this plant? It's a uterine stimulant. So it can cause uterine contractions and should not be used by pregnant women unless you're ready to have a baby, because the herb was used by midwives to induce labor. It's a menstrual regulator, so it acts as a reproductive aid and promotes a healthy female cycle. It's an anesthetic. It was used by midwives to facilitate labor. It's an anti-anxiety and sedative. Lemuru is in review as a potential source for the treatment of different central nervous system disorders, which includes anxiety, depression, pain, epilepsy, and memory impairments. It's an antioxidant. It reduces free radicals and it keeps you young. It retards aging. It's anti-rheumatic. It slows down rheumatoid arthritis. It's anti-parasitical and a vermifuge. So it expels parasites and worms from the body. It's diaphoretic. It promotes sweating. It's a diuretic. It reduces water and flushes out your urinary system. It's a febrifuge, so it reduces fever. Febrifuge means it has the ability to reduce or lower a fever. It's an insecticide. It's used to repel insects and protect against insect bites. You can just burn the leaves as an incense, or you can mash up the leaves into a poultice and just rub it all over your body. Once you get the scent of the plant on you, it will repel insects. The leaves can be crushed and inhaled to stop nosebleeds and sinus problems. So just the mere essence, the mere aroma is enough to trigger the sinuses into healing and to stop a nosebleed and to strengthen the blood vessels in the nose. It's administered in baths to treat all skin conditions. The plant is propagated by seeds. It germinates really easily because it produces a multitude of seeds. It can grow indoors, in nurseries, or in greenhouses. And you can transplant it outside. It'll grow just fine if it's a proper climate. Or you can keep it indoors. It's a very, very hardy plant. And it has very hardy roots. It doesn't grow that big. It grows up to about 3 feet tall. Doesn't take up a whole lot of space. And doesn't make a whole lot of demands. The whole herb, flowers, leaves, seeds, and roots are used to remedy many, many, many negative health conditions in the world. And there are several ways of doing this. So as a rule, you would use 1 teaspoon of herb powder. That's the crushed leaves and all of the aerial parts dried up and crushed. So you take 1 teaspoon of that and measure for every cup of water. And you would make it with hot water. Let it steep for about 10 minutes. It makes a nice strong cup of tea. And so we would take a half a cup from 2 to 3 times a day. Now you can take the same tea and anoint the body, like rub it all over your body. You can macerate the roots and the leaves, the entire plant, all the aerial parts, and steep them in rum. Just stuff them into a nice glass bottle and pour some rum in there, or alcohol. You could do the same thing with rubbing alcohol. Let it sit for a while and you make a nice pain ointment. Something you can just like rub yourself down after a long, hard day, either at the farm or at the office. You can just rub your whole body down with that. You can simply tie the leaves to your head under a scarf. A lot of old people used to do this. Just put the leaves under your scarf or under a hat, and you can treat a headache like that. You can treat a migraine like that with just the leaves. But you can take the leaves, powder them yourself, and stuff them into capsules. There are many ways you can powder the leaves. You can put them in the blender, you can crush them yourselves, and fill in the gel caps, and you would take 1 to 3 grams of the powdered herb per day. Now for your house, very simply, there's a reason why when you go into Garifuna villages, you see a Lemuru plant planted right by the front steps. So we plant the Lemuru around our house for the same kind of protection, for the land and for our home and for whoever enters our home. And that is about all the time we have for today, boys and girls. I hope that you've enjoyed our little tidbit on the Lemuru, the garlic weed, the guinea hen weed, the makura, the Congo root, and all those other names. And I really hope that this video helps create a deeper and closer relationship between you and this beautiful plant.